For me, I think the biggest thing that football taught me was how to overcome adversity.
At some point in your life, you're going to have some tough times.
You have to have that next play mentality.
That cohesiveness and that working together, that's really something special that you can't get in a lot of other areas.
When you practice that and you live that in other phases of your life, it becomes second nature because all you know how to do is fight.
It's not an easy game. If it were easy, everyone would do it.
You start to appreciate the smaller contributions that people make. You don't just look at the big one because you knew it took 6 or 7 other guys who are unsung.
And you can't take shortcuts and be successful.
Doing what they do to make it possible for the guy getting the press clippings or whatever it might be.
In this game, whether it's as a coach or a player.
So I would certainly say that you definitely got a very quick lesson in how to overcome adversity playing football.
Welcome to another edition of Talking Ball with the Czar. I'm Emory Hunt, the Czar of the Playbook, here on the campus of Towson University with head football coach Rob Ambrose. Coach, appreciate you taking time.
Thanks.
You've played here, you was a star here, now you're coaching here. What sense of pride, ownership, and expectation that goes with being in this position, having gone through this process before?
Did you say I was a star here? Oh, you need to do some research now. There are certain aspects of the job that are congruent no matter where you coach. But when you do it at the place that raised you, when you do it at home, there's some deeper intrinsic thing that you gain from reinvesting in the place that invested in you. So in the dark times, in the cleanup job, in the wee hours of the morning when nobody sees the mess that it was or the way we were going to clean it up, those could be hard, trying times. But when it's your home, it's fun.
Do you get that point across to the players? Are you trying to, or do you feel as though they buy in a little bit more because, hey, you were one of us before?
A little. That it's when I tell them it's not just my job, that this is my home, that I'm from the state of Maryland. I played football in the state of Maryland, and now I coach at a state institution representing the state of Maryland with the game of football. There's a whole lot of pomp, circumstance, flash, and BS that goes along in recruiting. But when you got a guy representing his home, it's kind of hard to believe that he's anything but truthful. And what we do and how we do bears weight to show that. It's a better way to be. It really is. And it's a really comfortable place to be. Even in recruiting, I say we try to get the guys closest to home because you fight for your home turf harder than you fight for somebody else's turf. And when every college football player goes and plays somewhere, eventually that place becomes part of its family. But in the early years, you're from somewhere else. You're not from there. And that makes it difficult. And the guys that are closer to home are more like me. They know that we represent the state of Maryland in the game of football.
I believe your best coaching job, and probably the most underrated coaching job you've had since you've been here, was the 2010 season. I hate to bring that up, but also the 2011 spring. Mm-hmm. What was going on that spring to help you trigger the right message to get this thing turned around? Because the next year you guys won a lot of games and you were coach of the year.
When I took the job in 9, I knew the teams in the league, but I didn't understand where we sat in reference to talent and effort. And so I wasn't going to figure that out until I saw them play versus who we have to play on the regular. Mm-hmm. In 10, well, in 9, we had lots of losses, 2 wins, but a lot of blowouts. The next year in 10, we went 1-10, but there were no blowouts. The losses were 3 points, 4 points, 7 points. As a matter of fact, that's the year, I want to say in 10, that's the year JMU beat Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. And we lost by 4 to JMU at home that year. And we dropped the ball in the end zone with 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go in the game. Now they were number 2 in the country, or number 4 in the country at the time, and we were still in the bottom of the barrel. But that was a little bit of a watershed moment. I remember, like, I would come in after games, And the office suite has people in it and all this stuff, and I can't stand losing. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's not really about winning. I just can't stand losing. And normally I have a decent effect after a game, even in the early years when we were losing, because I understood where we were and that it was a process, and I was true to the process. But after the Madison game, I walked in there and people knew not to talk to me. And I had steam coming out of my ears. And it was just my competitive nature. And my father, who's a good sounding board for me, he's a Hall of Fame high school football coach and has forgotten more football than I'll ever learn. He saw me, and he's a little bit bigger than me, and he whisked me away from everybody else so I wouldn't say anything in front of anybody, and he brought me back into my office. And he goes, "You almost won." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I know, I almost won." And I'm just angry and short. I dropped the ball, they're the number 2 team in the country, almost beating them. And after my small little rant before my press conference, my father grabbed me, both shoulders, looked me square in the face. He said, "That's why I love you." I said, "What?" He goes, "You're not supposed to be here yet. You know it. This is actually ahead of schedule." And he really stopped me in my tracks. And I took a really big, deep breath. And I went, "Yeah, I guess not." And we went about the business of the rest of the season. So we got to the last game. We played New Hampshire up there. And we were beat up. We weren't that good. And we're on a 1-10. We're probably not. They're nationally ranked. We're probably not going to beat them. And I had a lot of guys on that roster that were juniors. My first 2 years that were juniors and seniors that had a career of losing. They knew how to lose. They were good at it, and they were comfortable with it. And that just did not fit well with me at all. So night before game, I had a player. We do tests. And coach says, "Where's your specialty test?" Well, I'm not going to regurgitate exactly what transpired in that conversation because that's not meant for everybody else here, but let's just say that his response was ridiculously unacceptable at any age, at any level, in any circumstance. And when the athletic director found out how he addressed one of our coaches and responsibilities, he wanted to put him on a plane and send him home that night. Wow. And I said no. Instead, when that young man got to the stadium on Saturday, he didn't have a uniform. And he got to stand on the sidelines in the last game of his senior year in his street clothes in New Hampshire in November. And every single player on the team saw it. So at the end of the game, and we're finished the season and it's 1-10. And I have not yet evaluated the season in its entirety. I have not yet figured out that we have taken blowouts and made them 4-point games, 2-point games, 7-point games. I haven't figured this out yet. I'm just 1-10 and I'm not happy. And I had a young man named Frank Beltry who just got picked up by the Jets. He's been in Canada for a little while. And Frank told me, he said, "We got better today." I love Frank. He's the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm like, "All right, Frank, how do we get better today?" And he pointed at the young man who embarrassed himself. And he pointed at about 3 or 4 more seniors that had either massively underachieved or incredibly embarrassed themselves in the negative in their careers. And he kept pointing at me, he goes, "He's not playing here anymore, and he's not playing here anymore, and he's not playing anymore." He goes, "These guys are never going to wear the uniform again. We got better today." And it was really the ice bucket of water on my head that he had that perspective. And while I didn't disagree, wasn't first and foremost in my mind. So in January of 11, we had our first meeting. And I discussed what had happened in the previous season and what we did and what we didn't do. By the time that meeting was over, you thought we were 10-1 the previous year, and they were so excited to go back to work. And when we had media day in 2011, Frank Beltray told someone on TV, "We're going to win the conference title." And from across the room, it was like the record scratch, and a whole room full of players and coaches went, "What? Are you nuts? You guys were 1-10 last year." And damn if we didn't win the conference title. So it's the process. It's struggling through the hard, dark parts of the process, which in today's world, people can't handle anymore. They have no patience. They have no patience for process. Everything happens right now. It's amazing, you build a house and they want it built in 3 days. It's not, and if you do, trust me, if you do, it's going to fall down. So I equated what the early years, 9 and 10, to construction. That when you're building a large-scale building, all the work that's done in the beginning, no one ever sees. It just looks like a big heaping construction mess of dirt and metal with no frame, no fort, no nothing. But you need that in the lower levels of the ground if you're going to build something special and strong. And 9 and 10 were tough. But that's kind of where it started to turn.
Coach, we spoke back at CAA Media Day, I want to say it was July, and I asked you about developing a physical mindset. That's one aspect of your team that I'm very impressed with, from line of scrimmage to the running game. How are you able to get guys to develop that mindset and sustain that mindset throughout the course of a season?
Somebody told me in my early years that good football teams take on the personality of their coach. That's interesting, but didn't quite understand it until we played for the national championship. And I was talking to Craig Bowl that week when we were out there, and he told me, he says, North Dakota is unlike anywhere else in the country. He goes, every single person in the state of North Dakota knows exactly who you are. He goes, how does that feel? I go, honestly, now that you told me, kind of weird. He goes, but no one, and we're telling stories of our careers and our childhood and how we became coaches. And he tells me, and he's a out west guy, like Nebraska, you know, and he grew up on a farm. I started laughing. I'm like, so did I. And he turns, and then it's again like the record stop. He's, what? I said, oh yeah, I grew up on a farm. And he goes, that explains it. I said, I don't understand what you mean. He said, if you ever watch yourself on TV, he goes, you look like a slick-haired, sweet-talking city boy politician. He goes, you just played the part. And everybody goes, all right, well, that's what coaches are supposed to do today, and that they get it. But they can't understand how my city team supposedly plays as physical as they do. Mm-hmm. And he goes, now I understand. Farm boys know what work is, and they're not afraid of it. And when you carry that on a daily basis, it rubs off on people. So how we go about what we do is not like everybody else. Football is a contact sport. Football is meant to be played with physicality. It's built that way. And as the world has progressed in that part of it, we have not on purpose. And that makes us different than our competition. The concept was to be different than our competition, to provide something to the league doesn't already have. Let's not try to do what everybody else does better than they do. Let's do what we do as good as we can do it. So we decided that that's how we were going to go about things. And we probably hit, I don't want to say hit, we don't tackle very much. Mm-hmm. But we are not shy about being physical when we practice. As a matter of fact, it's a point of pride. And we talk about toughness, that the game of football is not meant to be played while you feel 100%. You don't do that, okay? And it's not an individual sport. It's not how well you play when you feel good. It's how well you play when you don't feel good. And that is an analogy for being successful in life. That's why coaches do this, using football as a tool to make these guys strong young men who are ready to be great fathers, great husbands, great employees, and make a difference in the world. So if all you ever do is shine when you feel perfect, you're not going to shine very much. And you're sure not going to be very proud of yourself. Anybody can do it when it's easy. But what are you when it's hard? And most guys that you get, they're not gifted. I wasn't gifted that way. I was a pansy little kid. But if you practice doing something difficult, when it's difficult, challenging, over and over again, it's not challenging anymore. Mm-hmm. Your perception of our toughness is my perception of our normal. And that's kind of how it should be. And I want them to be physically and mentally tough. I want to teach them to be physically, mentally tough consistently, because that's how they're going to win in the world. Not just on the football field. That's the tool. Mm-hmm. That's how they're going to win in the world. That the world's going to knock you down. So, and there are kids today that will lay there and wait for someone to pick them up. No. The world's going to knock you down. Get up and smile, because you get another shot at it. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing. So that, people may say that what we do is a little bit different and unorthodox, and I don't really care what they think. I know that I'm preparing my guys to be successful, make a difference in the world, and using the game of football to do it.
We know football teaches you a lot of life lessons, some physical, some mental. It also allows you the ability to get up and face that again, and that has to take passion, it has to take love. What is it about the game that you love the most?
My first living memory is football as a child. And to say that this is what I do would be negating so much of me. It's not what I do, it's who I am. There's people that say, like, you're not supposed to take your work home, mm-hmm. Just leave your work at work. This isn't work. Jokingly, my wife was at a dinner party once, and this woman was complaining about her husband and how he works 80 hours in a week. And my wife was drinking wine and legitimately spitting the wine out. And everybody looked at her. All the girls looked at her like, what are you talking about? She said, I wish my husband worked 80 hours a week. And they all looked at her and they didn't understand. And one girl finally goes, oh, I'm sorry. She goes, what do you mean? She goes, you don't like your husband that much? You wish he wasn't? She goes, no. If my husband worked 80 hours a week, I would see him more. I don't look at it as work. I never have. Football. And the greatest thing about it, I learned at a very young age, I have yet to find anything on this planet, any game, any activity that one can participate that can raise the level of the human spirit like the game of football. All encompassing. And don't get me wrong, I played other sports and I love them. And I you know, we're gonna have lacrosse tournaments here, and I love it. I love it. Mm-hmm. The toughness, the physicality, the challenges. I ask kids in recruiting all the time, have you ever been in a fight? And some will say yes, some will say, I'm like, I don't really care who won. I said, you ever get knocked down? And if they say yes, their stock rises in my eyes because they understand what it's like to get knocked down and get back up again. They don't live in bubble wrap. Football, if you don't do that in your life, if mommy wouldn't let you, if some teacher wouldn't let you, if you were afraid, but at some point you play football, you are going to learn more about yourself in that sport than you will learn about yourself in any other sport, because it challenges you. Every sport challenges you, but this one challenges you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, daily. And you have to rise to the challenge. You learn more about yourself from playing football than any other sport possible. And politically, what I've come to learn, and I truly do love, and my father did teach me this, but now in today's world I understand it, is we're the biggest. Football players are usually the biggest human beings you ever see.
Right.
So everyone looks to us. In the 60s, I learned that during the race issues of the 60s and the riots and stuff, the things that kept college campuses together, the things that kept society together, were athletes. So we don't care. That stuff doesn't matter to us. All the things that everybody talks about in seminars and stuff about how to get along and all that, we all laugh at them. They're trying to reinvent the wheel. We do it every day. Mm-hmm. We see each other for who we are. We're black, white, green, red, purple from deep in the city and all in the country. Yet when you see us, we're in one uniform, we're together. And we are brothers from the day we put on that helmet to the day we die. That if you're in an airport and you're sitting in a bar and you're talking to a guy and he says, I played football at blank. It don't matter where it is. Don't matter what level it was. Immediately that man's your brother. That he's part of a fraternity that only being a part of the fraternity can you truly understand. You guarantee you understand how this guy sees life. That he sees it as a challenge, a chance to grow, an opportunity. Doesn't see adversity as something that keeps you down and holds you down. It's a speed bump in the road. It's a vegetable in your salad you didn't like too much, but you ate it anyhow, and lovingly on the back end you got better. Mm-hmm. When do you ever get to see 17 to 35? I'll take it forward. How's Brett Favre? Somebody tie him to a chair. 17 to 40-year-old men of every race, creed, color, geographical representation, religious ideology. When do you see all those walls ever come down in anything else to see those guys come together and love each other? And the world would be lucky if they would all just play this game for a little bit. And the brotherhood that this creates, it happens in every sport. It truly does. Outside of the military and the survival of military, the military life, I've yet on this planet to see anything that can do something and do as much for the human spirit as a game of football can. And that's just for the individual. Have you ever been to a football game? Have you ever seen what that game, how those kids play, how it can resonate with a community and bring them together? I love college campuses. I love everything about academic. Dislocated hip fracture pelvis, end of my career. I believe it. Student athlete, and the word student athlete, student should be in capital letters and athlete should. Ever seen 20,000 people show up for a chemistry anything?
Nope.
Or a seminar on geographic economic relations? Doesn't happen. Those are learning experiences, but they're not communal. football can help mold a community, tie a community. We went to the national championship. The greatest, everybody said, what's the greatest part about it? How much would you enjoy it? Best thing in the world. When I kept hearing all over the country, there's a watch party here in Atlanta, there's one in LA. I'm getting message board emails. Hey, we're in blah, 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 Oklahoma City. Where's the closest place we're gonna get, how can we get together and watch? Hundreds of thousands of alumni who have not talked to each other since the day they walked out of school. Because what happens when we get out of college? Go find a job. After we find a job, what do? Go find a significant other, have kids, start a life. And while we love and we're still close to everyone that we went to college with, life gets in the way. This game, football, gave hundreds of thousands of alums a chance to reconnect, a reason to reconnect, and a reason to regain pride in their previous community and the family of which they're attached to for the rest of their life. Find me another sport that does that. I'm a very lucky man.
And nowadays, I feel like the country has become smaller. Everyone is on TV. Everyone is either online or what have you. So students have a ton of options. Why would a student athlete choose Towson?
Good question. Well, universities on the whole would not exist if they put out bad degrees. It really doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. Like, you can claim one school is better than the other, but interestingly enough, if one school is better than the other, do you know what the freshman English book is? Here, it's a Norton Anthology of Literature. You know what it is at Harvard? The Norton Anthology of Literature, and Texas, and Michigan, and at the South American Junior College of the Americas. The books are the same. If you look at it on the field, that field is the exact same dimension as every single major college football field in America. And I tell kids this all the time. When you're a football player, you don't know if 5 people are watching or 5 million people are watching. And the only people that give a damn about who's in the stands are either the players that don't play or the people that are in the stands. So that's got nothing to do with nothing. And it's taken a long time to realize that there's a lot of flash, there's a lot of glitz, there's a lot of crap, a lot of BS. And after being in a couple places and having a chance to see success at different levels in different institutions, and understanding similarities and congruencies between those institutions, I've come to one undeniable conclusion about any school, that the only reason you should ever go to any school is people. That buildings never made anybody better. In today's world, the equipment we use is the same equipment that the Ravens use. So equipment's never an issue. Oh, you get it better when you're at Alabama than you do at Joe Schmo University. No, that don't work. It's all the same now. Truly, the only difference in a great college experience is people. Now, I will throw a caveat on there. I did live in New England for about 8 years. Geographical location might have a little bit to do with college. But now I say all that, and if I want to throw geography into the conversation about why do you go to Towson, I figured this out when I was 25 years old because I went here. And at the time, I wanted to go to Stanford. And the reason I wanted to go to Stanford was that was the school that was farthest away from my mother that was recruiting me and play football. Now, a strange, crazy set of events that allows me to go to school at Towson. But I'm 25 years old, and I call my mother up one day and I say, I'm sorry. She says, what for? I go, pretty much the last 8 years. Because I'd had this moment of clarity in recruiting. That somebody asked me the question that you asked me, and I was not prepared for that, so I just said words. So you close your eyes, try to find me a place in the United States of America that has 2 major metropolitan institutions within 40 minutes of each other, that gets all 4 seasons completely. That if you stand in the heart in either one of those cities and you drive 30 minutes west, you can be in country like you and a cow, and that's it. You don't see anything else. But if you were to go an hour and a half to the east, you could be in the ocean. You get the ocean, you get the mountains, you get the country, you get the city. By the time I'm 65 years old, Washington, D.C. and Baltimore will be one city. It will be a megalopolis, and that is Rome. That is the center of the universe. Every decision in the world is made right there that matters. So if you put all that together and then throw college into the mix, geographically, if you want to be successful in life, you want to have a college where you can get experience outside the dorm room, the classroom. You want to go to a business, get an internship, get some experience doing something. Well, this is where everything is. Find me something that you need to do that you can't do here. Because I can go look at a map and find about 1,000 other colleges that you need to go do something so you can get some life experience and be good, that you can't. Or you can, but you're driving 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, because there's nothing there. Geographically, it's one of the best locations in the world to exist, period. I'm a big proponent of 4 seasons. Like, that's a big deal. You get to experience all of life. The diversity that exists in this geographic region is almost unlike anywhere in the world because it's Rome. And you throw all those things together with a bunch of good people. Like, why did I go to Towson? People. That's it. People. But geography doesn't hurt.
Coach, listen, if I had any more eligibility left, I would go out there and play for you today. But I definitely am looking forward to seeing you continue building this thing into a true powerhouse program. And I like the word you use, megalopolis.
Megalopolis? Yeah,
I like that.
Thank you.
Good
I was
work.
an English major. I tend to do that.
But I do like the field here. I like the facilities. Great program, great university. And we wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you taking time.
Thank you very much.